With his appointment as Prussian minister-president in 1862, Bismarck set about to implement his principles and to transform the European order. With the conservative monarchies of the East divided in the aftermath of the Crimean War, France isolated on the continent because of the memories evoked by its ruler, and Austria wavering between its national and its European roles, Bismarck saw an opportunity to bring about a German national state for the first time in history. With a few daring strokes between 1862 and 1870, he placed Prussia at the head of a united Germany, and Germany in the center of a new system of order. Disraeli called the unification of Germany in 1871 a greater political event than the French Revolution, and concluded that the balance of power has been entirely destroyed. The Westphalian and the Vienna European orders had been based on a divided Central Europe, whose competing pressures between the plethora of German states in the Westphalian settlement and Austria and Prussia in the Vienna outcome would balance each other out. What emerged after the unification of Germany was a dominant country, strong enough to defeat its neighbor individually and perhaps all the continental countries together. The bond of legitimacy had disappeared. Everything now depended on calculations of power. The greatest triumph of Bismarck's career had also made more difficult, perhaps impossible, the operation of a flexible balance of power. The crushing defeat of France in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870-1871, which Bismarck had adroitly provoked France into declaring, was attended by the annexation of Alsace-Lorraine, a retributive indemnity, and the tactless proclamation of the German Empire in the Hall of Mirrors of Versailles in 1871. Europe's new order was reduced to 5 major powers, 2 of which, France and Germany, were irrevocably estranged from each other. Bismarck understood that a potentially dominant power at the center of Europe faced the constant risk of inducing a coalition of all others, much like the coalition against Louis XIV in the 18th century and Napoleon in the early 19th. Only the most restrained conduct could avoid incurring the collective antagonism of its neighbors. All of Bismarck's efforts thereafter would be devoted to an elaborate series of maneuvers to forestall this cauchemar de coalition, nightmare of coalitions, as he called it, using the French phrase. In a world of 5, Bismarck counseled, it was always better to be in the party of 3. This involved a dizzying series of partly overlapping, partly conflicting alliances, for example, an alliance with Austria and a reinsurance treaty with Russia, with the aim of giving the other great powers, except the irreconcilable France, a greater interest to work with Germany than to coalesce against it. The genius of the Westphalian system as adapted by the Congress of Vienna had been its fluidity and its pragmatism. Ecumenical in its calculations, it was theoretically expandable to any region and could incorporate any combination of states. With Germany unified and France a fixed adversary, the system lost its flexibility. It took a genius like Bismarck to sustain the web of counterbalancing commitments, keeping the equilibrium in place by a virtuoso performance that forestalled general conflict during his tenure. but a country whose security depends on producing a genius in each generation sets itself a task no society has ever met